Welcome back to the 25 days of Whiskey Christmas. Today is day 20. Yep, we've entered the 20s. We're almost there, folks. Let's get right into it. Today's bottle for day 20 of the 25 days of Whiskey Christmas is Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond. A short little history lesson about bottled in bond if you don't know what that phrase means. The Bottled in Bond Act was put forth, and I have some notes, put forth in 1897, led largely by a Colonel Taylor. If you've heard of E.H. Taylor, same one. He approached Congress about the purity of bourbon and wanting there to be some regularity. You see, what was happening is taxes were done on the amount of bourbon that you had. As we all know, bourbon takes a while to age. And some people wanted to get away from having to pay taxes on their inventory that they weren't able to sell. And they wanted some shortcuts. And so what they started doing was they would put dyes in it and some pretty nasty things. And in fact, it started to kill people. For some of these people, they didn't care. They had their money, they were gone, they were out of business the next day. That's a little dangerous. For people who wanted to be less dangerous, but still very deceitful and not age their stuff long enough to get a good color and a good flavor, would add things like vegetables or weeds that would artificially color the bourbon. Some places, like bars and restaurants who did their own whiskey, would even go as far as collecting the spittoons at the end of the night and, well, yeah, they poured it into barrels to get the color. If that grosses you out, then you should love Bottled in Bond, because the whole point of that was to create some accountability, some legitimacy. So what does Bottled in Bond mean? The Bottled in Bond Act of 1897 has a couple, like 2 or 3 very specific things. It has to be distilled in one season by one distiller in one location. A season is January through June or July through December. One distiller at one location means this cannot be sourced from multiple places. It has to be aged in a federally bonded warehouse for at least 4 years. And the last, and probably the most important, it has to be bottled at exactly 100 proof. There's no messing around. There's no cheating the system. There was no dyeing it or adding things to make it colored or flavored. This was very legitimate. So Heaven Hill, Bottled in Bond. Heaven Hill started in 1935, which means to get a 4-year product, their first Bottled in Bond release was released in 1939. So we've talked about Bottled in Bond. Let's get into this bottle. Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond, as we mentioned, was distilled in 1935 and released in 1939. Bottled in Bond kind of fell out of favor in the 70s and 80s when people started adding flavoring to whiskey. A lot of people thought the Bottled in Bond notation was kind of antiquated. Heaven Hill still made it, but it was pretty low on their release. They didn't do it a lot. And this iteration came out in 2019, and it very clearly states that it is 7 years old. This was almost immediately a hit. This is a well sought after. It's not allocated. It should be released all year long, at least twice a year. So it should be in good inventory, and yet it's hard to find sometimes. I looked this morning on the Ohio Locator, and of the 3 or 4 liquor stores close to me, only 2 of them had it in stock. When I bought this one, I was about an hour away, and because none of my local ones bought it. So when I saw it, I grabbed it. Let's go in for that nose. one thing I didn't mention was the reason that it's so hard to get is because a lot of people love this bottle. They put it in their top. A lot of people put this in their top 5. I don't know that I'm there, but it is really good. Immediately nose of honey. A little bit of vanilla. A little bit of caramel too. If I were to tell you, I watch a group called, or a father-son duo online do whiskey reviews called SLB. They use the term quintessential. This is a quintessential bourbon nose. Honey right in the front, caramel, vanilla. Yeah, this is what bourbon's supposed to smell like right here. I will show the color, some good color there. Let's go in for that taste. The honey and the caramel shine. Good carryover from the nose. There's also the sides of the tongue, the oak and the char, like the charred oak from the barrel. You can taste that in here. Not overwhelming, not overpowering, but absolutely there for sure. There's something else. Peanut butter? Like creamy peanut butter. There are peanut butter bourbons out there. This is not one of them. But it is absolutely across the ridge, the higher ridge at the back of your tongue. It has a finish of peanut butter. That is interesting. Still the honey, caramel. That oak is there right on the sides of the tongue. Let's read about this. Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond is a straight bourbon distilled and bottled by Heaven Hill. 100 proof, exactly what it's supposed to be. The age is 7 years. So this was new in 2019, before it was just a 4-year product. Mash bill, 78% corn, 10% rye, and 12% malted barley. The MSRP is not high on this. It's only about $40. This is a $40 bottle. This holds up to any other $40 bottle of bourbon that I have here or that I've ever tasted. This is good. This is really good. Where do I rank this? This is a solid bottle. I think the fact that it's sometimes hard to find might make me hold it back and have it more for friends than for myself. So let's do solidly in the category 3, share with friends. Yeah, this is a good bottle. If you see this, MSRP, this is a solid $40 bottle, and I would not hesitate to recommend to buy this. So that's day 20, Heaven and Hill Bottled in Bond. Cheers.